All righty, here we go. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Pricing Pros today, where we're going to get some good workout today on a property shared by Carrie. That it's actually her neighborhood, shows she's our inside, has the inside scoop on it. As a reminder, this isn't a scripted something where I'm the instructor and I'm the pro and that sort of thing. This is to work together. Because every CMA, of course, is like a special snowflake, and I learn something every time I join. And so I encourage everyone here to jump in. I'll ask periodically, what do you all think? Or if you think I'm going down the wrong path, like, whoa, 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 let's come back. What about this? Again, we're working out together. So if one of us is leading, the rest of us are spotting. So hopefully that makes sense. Dee, I'm sorry, I'm not really good at that analogy. I should let you do the workout thing. Okay, I put in the chat our address. Well, I did, but then I logged out. So the address is 3127 Wilmuth Road, and that's in Nashville, and that's 3708027. So there we go.
207.
So, oh, I'm sorry, 37207.
Okay.
There we go. All right, so I will start sharing my screen here. And share. Great. All righty. So this obviously is RealTracks. It's our MLS. It's what we're going to use to search. And so I don't have any information about this property other than the address. So someone has called me up and said, hey, I've heard you're an awesome realtor, Rebecca. I would love for you to help me sell my house at 3127 Wilmuth Road. Or a buyer calls up and says, hey, Rebecca, I really want to work with you. Will you help me buy this property that's just shown up? But I know nothing about it. All right, so with RealTracks, I'd like to make sure everybody knows I'm doing a lot of changes, a whole lot of updates to the RealTracks interface. And depending on how long you've been in the business, how experienced you are, or how new you are to the business, this may not be a big change for those of you who've been in the business for a short period of time, but for those of us who've been there for longer than a year, some of these changes are pretty important. But the interface you see now is the interface that's going to live on after the end of this year and such. So we're going to start here. And we'll type in our address, 3127 Wilmuth. Okay, so you just start typing and you see it pops up. So that's the one we want. Select that. And because this one is not, this property is not on the market currently, this is what you see. Now, if it were currently marketed, you would be taken to the MLS listing, the current listing, right? But it's not on the market, so this is what you see. And what we have here is it's a combination of things from CRS tax information and MLS, kind of just a nice snapshot of what this is. So Carrie, I'll look for your confirmation. Is this where you live?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've got some information about it. We have 2250 square feet. All right. So, and so that's from the tax record. If we want some more information on the property, we can click here and go to tax, which I'll go on do that. It opens up a new window. We may come back to this in a second, but I'm going to go back to RealTracks. And scrolling down, now we see the sales history. And so it last sold in 2018. And the great thing about this is not only do we have the history of sales, when it sold, how it sold, under contract not showing, back to active, all that sort of stuff. But what I like to do is, because we don't have an active listing, I like to click on the last listing, and it will go to the last listing because it's going to give us a lot of information. All right, and we're going to cheat just a little bit. Oh, how cute! But we can get some confirmation from Carrie because we have an expert, which we can't always get. But we all know that sometimes the information that's in MLS, and even sometimes the information that's in CRS tax is not entirely accurate. So, because a lot of the information, although when we start to create a listing in Real Tracks, it pulls some from the tax data. If it's not correct in the tax data, then it's not going to be correct here. And there are a lot of fields that are entered by a listing agent, so the information is only as good as was entered by the listing agent. So we always take everything, we follow the guideline, trust but verify. Right? Okay, so it looks like we have 2 beds and 1 full bath and 1 half bath. Is that correct, Carrie?
Not anymore.
Okay, so good information. And so that's why before we go to our listing appointment, we'd want to have a conversation on the phone ahead of time, like, hey, is this information correct? So you can start doing your due diligence ahead of time. What is it now, Carrie?
You could call it either a 3 or 4 bed. The 4th bedroom's a little weird. So I, as a realtor, would safely call it a 3 bed with a bonus room.
Okay.
And it is a 2 full, 1 half.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So I would call it a 3 bed with a 2/1.
Okay.
Is it still 2250 square feet?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have it? I need to make a phone call.
Not for sale.
I don't care what the price is. It's fine. I got somebody. Okay.
I'm sure. I'm sure you do.
I won't be the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well, depending on how much this house is worth, we'll see.
So it's about a 1/4 of an acre yard. So I'm just going to scroll down again. I'm just getting the lay of the land to get some information. Looks like there's open parking, no covered parking. Is that correct?
Right. The driveway. Yeah.
All right. And we know that this isn't exactly correct. Is it 2 levels? Is there a full basement?
Yes. So the basement has windows and is a full basement, and that's where the 2 extra bedrooms are. The one of which I'm calling a bonus room because it's tiny.
Okay.
And additionally, there's been a brand new deck put on the back. So that there's a brand new deck that is not included on this listing.
Okay. All right, great.
But I'd say, yes, those are the changes. Additional bedroom, additional bathroom, additional deck.
Okay. All right. The listing agent was Justin Cronin, and for anyone who knows Tara DeSelms, the DeSelms team, they've recently moved. So they're no longer their own brokerage. Okay, all right. Now, some other things that's helpful to get here, which I tend to grab when I'm doing my due diligence, is I'll go in and grab the disclosures if they're there, so I can just review what they said before was on the property condition disclosure, or if it were the exemption or whatever. So, but we'll come and do that later. All right, anything else on this listing that you think jumps out at you that we should take into account when we're doing comps? Newer HVAC and roof. Newer, of course, is up for interpretation, but that could be something of interest. Right. It was sold as is, and so sometimes that language is so, I mean, it means something, but what does it mean, right? So when we're doing comps, there are times when if something's sold as is, or for comp purposes only, do we use them? So what does that mean? Is it as is because I can, and because the market is so cuckoo, and so I'm not going to do any repairs? Or is it as is because it's to settle an estate? Is it as is because it won't go FHA because it's a disaster? So these are things that we want to.
So many options.
Anything else jump out here? Okay, let's call it good then. At least for our preliminary. Now let's jump over to CRS tax. All right. So lots of information we can get from here. And we can also say, okay, well, that doesn't match up exactly with what I thought I saw in MLS. And as a listing agent, anything that's not correct in the tax record, if you're not going to work with your seller to get it corrected before you list it, you at least need to have a perfectly good and correct explanation. So when buyer's agents who do their due diligence say, wait a minute, it says it's 1,100 square feet and it's 1 bed, 1 bath. So what's up? You want to be able to explain that. All right, scrolling down. All right. So it looks like it was purchased. So the previous seller purchased it in 2015 for $83,000. And then 3 years later, sold it for $200,000. So perhaps there was some work that was done to fix it up. And so what that says to me is, then I'm going to go check permits that were pulled to see what kind of work was done. So if we've all seen, the flip it shows and stuff, and sometimes, if this was a flip, it's the longest flip that I've seen in a while, 3 years, but it could have been somebody buying it, living in it, fixing it up throughout. But we don't know that yet. So, but we'll ask Carrie for the inside scoop in a minute.
That's a really, I'm trying to think of the word for a really slow flip.
Yeah.
Like
it's a
flip.
Rotation. What does the earth do?
Yeah.
So,
or I don't know.
So yeah, so on my notes, I'm saying I'm been check permits to see how the work was done, and because some renovations require permits to be pulled, some do not, and then we're going to ask Carrie about the work that she's done, and how that's, because again, if the seller has done updates to the house and didn't pull permits, and that was okay because you didn't have to, because you weren't touching outside wall or structure or whatever, and I'm not a codes expert, but if you didn't have to pull permits, you need to be able to explain that. If permits should have been pulled and they weren't, then you at least need to be upfront about that. And that would be in the property condition disclosure. There's any work been done that, didn't have permits, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to want to advise your sellers to disclose. It's never a good idea to keep information that you really know needs to be shared. All right, so scrolling on down. We got some tax information, some owner information. Okay, so down here in the property characteristics, it's showing 3 beds, 2.5 baths. So it seems to me the permits have been pulled, and then when it was approved through codes, then they updated the tax record because they want to collect the extra tax on it. Does that seem like a reasonable interpretation, Carrie?
Yeah, that seems right.
So wait, Carrie, do you live in it?
Yeah, my boyfriend owns it. I live here.
Oh, are you in it?
I'm in it right now.
Are you in the downstairs part?
Yes, this is like the downstairs basement world.
Okay. I'm looking at it. It's cute. Is there a bed behind you? Is that like a bedroom kind of a, is that?
I mean, what I've made it. We just have a lot of friends and guests stay over, so I stuck a bed.
Okay.
Down. But this
Beautiful.
is a basement area.
Okay. Cute.
There's this is not a bedroom. This is just like where I like to eat snooze. But then there's 2 rooms back there. I hope I'm aiming correctly. Bedroom and then bonus room. And then there's a bathroom back there.
That's great.
Okay. The whole world's down here. Yeah.
That's beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the tour.
This is a first on Pricing Pros, folks. We got a pre-listing walkthrough. Kind of
virtual walkthrough.
Exactly.
I like it. Or sit through. Yeah, it's good.
So, and what I'm hearing here, so this is as you're ahead of time, if you're asking questions in your pre-listing appointment phone call, you can be asking these questions. I've got questions popping into my head now, like how is that built out? Is there a bathroom down there? Is there a kitchenette down there?
Yeah.
There's not a kitchenette.
Owner occupied.
It is not.
PR. So these are all questions that I'm like, okay, getting things going here. All right. So no bathroom downstairs, no kitchenette. Right?
There's a bathroom. There's a full bathroom down here.
Got full bath. Is there a separate entrance?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Would you like the tour?
I mean,
There's
Lee
this
just
living
wants to-
space. There's this like general living space that I'm in. And then there's its own entrance right over there.
Mhm.
2 bedrooms, although one is a real bedroom, one is so tiny, I'm not calling it a bedroom.
right.
2 rooms over there that have closets. And then there's a full bathroom. And there's a laundry room.
That's
So-
fabulous.
Pretty much everything except for a kitchenette. There's no kitchenette, so this is not an area that you could rent out really.
Do you know if your zoning would support anything like some
Oh, I don't know.
Rennie Airbnb kind of crazy thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not even really sure how to look that up.
Ah, excellent. We will
Rebecca
come to
knows
that.
things like that.
We'll come to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And here's a disclaimer that I would throw out to a seller, like, hey seller, I'm asking you these questions. We're gonna have to, I'll give you some resources to look into zoning and what you could do with this if it's zoned for an owner occupied rental, that sort of thing. Because it's not the case that you can't rent it if it's not a kitchenette, but if it's a shared kitchen, that's something different. So, but what I'm thinking, does anybody else on here have another idea for a marketing spin on that space downstairs?
Currently, the one room is soundproofed and it's being used as a studio. So the 1 bedroom he uses as a soundproof studio. And then the
Great.
bonus room is his like recording room. So
great.
it's great for someone for that purpose if you have a band and you're recording.
Awesome.
Excellent. Other thoughts? How about a multi-generational family, in-law suite?
Mhm.
Grandmother moves in to help, or, mother-in-law
Yep.
moves in to help take care of the kids, has her privacy, separate area, but it's a shared kitchen.
Yes.
Something
Or
like that.
is the bottom floor of like some kind of handicap accessible? So if somebody had a very old parent, could the old parent be down there, or would that be?
I think not, it's not currently that way, but I think you could easily just adjust like something outside to make like a ramp down from the driveway.
Okay.
That person who is
Roll them in.
disabled or handicapped would not have access to the kitchen though.
Well, somebody else would probably be cooking for them. I don't know.
Yeah, you
It's
could definitely have someone like living down here and have their full, like, I feel like I have enough space. I mean, this downstairs is bigger than my old apartment.
okay.
But there's just no kitchen, so you'd have to go upstairs for the kitchen.
Or could you put one in? Easy.
That was my question.
Potentially, because
Sounds like you have room, plumbing, and electricity.
because this laundry room is
Oh,
quite large.
ooh. That's
There's a
huge.
separate entrance,
Okay.
quite large. You could probably make that a kitchenette. Yeah, you probably could.
Because older parents are popular these days.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a full kitchen. It could just be like mini fridge, microwave, countertop, and like little, one of those little top of this counter burner things.
Wait, coffee maker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
And I know a plumber, so I could. Definitely could.
Great.
Okay, great. So these are, again, this is all part of the magic process, which is not magic at all, process of doing your assessment before we start pulling comps. So when we start looking at other properties and we're like, oh, wait, but I've got this, they don't have this, but I don't have this and they have that. So, or that potential. All right, so we're still on the tax record, scrolling down and get some information about the construction. Again, take this with a grain of salt, not always correct. Full basement. Excellent. Scroll down, zone for single family dwelling. And the zoning code listed here, and it does pull from the record, is RS 7.5, single family. Now, again, this information is not always correct. If it's incorrect in the tax record, then it'll be incorrect here. But just sort of make a note of that. So RS 7.5. So as of today, who knows what it'll be at 4 o'clock later today. Anything with an R in front of it could not be zoned for non-owner occupied STR,
Okay.
but it could be for owner occupied, possibly. We'll have to check. So, but anyway, just taking notes, thinking. All right, scrolling down, and always in the Bellevue area, especially, but any area, you want to check the and this is in a minimal flood risk area, which is good. And we can provide this information to a seller for them to check it out and all that sort of stuff, because again, we are not the source of the information, we are the source of the source. But that's just a good, a quick check. Yay, it's not in a flood zone, right? Because if it's in a flood zone, then we're going to have to talk to a seller about flood insurance, and hopefully they have it. Because if it's in a flood zone and somebody is buying it with leverage, if they're getting a loan, then the lender's going to require flood. All right, last thing I want to do in the tax record, and again, this is just to remind myself more than anything of all the stuff that's in here, so that I can check it out. So I clicked on to make the picture, the image larger. Because let's say I'm not familiar with this, like, where is this? I'm like, oh, right, here it is. And then you can see how conveniently located it is to a number of different ways to get into town or out of town. So again, thinking marketing along with, positioning. Over here on the left side, there's these two little arrows, and this is where we can add some layers. And sometimes this information can be very helpful. Let's say that I've got, let's go, theme. I don't want to do that. Let's see if there's listing information. All right, now this is generally what we would do in MLS. So let's not do that. Let me do school information. All right. And I'm putting my different hat on, I'm representing the buyer. And I'm like, I know that my buyer really, really, really wants to keep their kid in Maplewood. So so you can turn these different things on. And so then you can see there's Republic, here's Maplewood. So I've got locations, but I really just want to see the zones. All right, and it's kind of hard to see because of here the blue lines. That's where you can tell what the difference. So I'll turn the high school location back on, so you can see if Republic is here, then this is probably the Republic zone. Maplewood's down here. Somebody different, the Academy at Opry Mills is over here. So different layers you can turn on. Let's turn those off and look at the flood zones. Always fun. That's always a good one. FEMA flood zones. So even if your property is not in a flood zone, you're like, really? Because it seems like it's really close to a flood zone. So we can turn on the flood zone layer and zooming in and zooming in. Oop, I'm zooming out and zooming in and zooming in and zooming in. Look at that nice little, just nestled between the flood zone area. But this is, of course, of great concern to a lot of people who are familiar with what happened to Nashville in 2010. Anyway, just some things you can do. There are other things in NLS tax that actually they're comparables tools have really been improved in the last couple of months. And there's a whole, you can take a training on the comps. It's actually some pretty cool stuff that you can't do in MLS. So in Real Tracks. Prospecting. This is if you want to do some farming and stuff, and you can take a class from Real Tracks on CRS tax and prospecting, farming and stuff. So anyway, but enough about that. We've got all the information that we really want to have from CRS tax. So we're going to go back to our list, or what's going to be our list. Okie dokie. So we've done our just a little preliminary. Okay, we've gathered some information. Now it's time to actually do some costs. So I'm going to go. There are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can go to open up search here. All right, and you can just enter some stuff in here, if you want. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to do something a little bit different. And here's why. So I'm going to open up search up here. And this top, it says new search. This is the new interface for Real Tracks. Okay. And again, this new interface has been optimized for mobile. So when you search on your phone in the RealTracks app, it's going to look exactly the same. So that's good. They've improved the search, because it used to be you just use the regular RealTracks on here and it was stinky. So they're doing that, but not all the features are in there yet. So I'm still going to go down to what they're calling the legacy search that they're going to make go away. And the one main reason that I'm going to do that is because they have not added the save search feature in the new search yet. So we're going to do all this work to develop our comps and not be able to save it and go back to it later. And I think that's goofy. But never fear. So if you're, just keep that in mind, at least for right now, if you're using the new search stuff in RealTracks and you're like, I've done all this work to develop these comps, but oh my gosh, I got to call a drop everything call and I'm going to come back, and then you get logged out of RealTracks, you're going to have to redo your work. Okay. They're going to fix that, but at least for today, they're not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a map. All right, and I'm just going to kind of do a geographical search. We're putting on our appraiser hat now, and thinking like an appraiser, which we all know micro neighborhoods are everything in real estate in Nashville. But we're going to start with a bunch of information in the top of what we call a funnel, right? All this stuff, and then as we add criteria, we're going to squish things down the funnel and try to narrow in and hone in on our true comp. So what I did is I clicked on this center function over here, and I'm going to type in 3127 Wilmeth, and it's going to pop up any moment now. There we go. And so thinking like an appraiser will generally go out a mile, right? And any more comps need to be within 3 to 6, well, less than 6 months, because of how things are going right now. This is a tricky little space. A lot of times I'll just do I'll hit draw and do circle, and I'll go out a mile. All right, just to get an idea of how big a mile is from there. But any thoughts on, why this circle is somewhat problematic?
Because of those streets.
Exactly. You're crossing some really major, boundary lines that we don't normally do, because we know, and if an appraiser does, look within here, then they're probably going to, if they can find comps within here, they're not going to cross over, generally speaking. So, but that still tells me how much a mile is. Well, I'm going to draw another shape on top of this, and I'm going to do it by using this function. And here's Briley Parkway 2. Dang it. So I just want to stay in this. I call this the triangle. So, and when I tell myself the triangle, I know what that means. So, because it's this nice little thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, obviously, that's a very small thing, right? So that's where I like to start. That doesn't mean that you have to start there. And then I'm going to hit search listings, and you can draw up to 4 shapes, I believe. So if you wanted, that some you want to look there. Oops, I'm just going to map. All right, and do save search. Okay, so we have a few things in here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where we know with RealTracks, whether it's new search or old search, the default search statuses are active, coming soon, hold, under contract, showing. But we know for comps, we want to say under contract, not showing, and closed within, anybody want to pick?
3, maybe 6, but.
And 3 is great. I would start again, when you think about the funnel, start bigger. And then when you get 971, you're like, okay, maybe we can do a little better here. But in some areas, especially further out or specialty areas, you may need to go 6 months, even a year, especially as you get further out. So I usually pick middle of the road, but there's no right or wrong answer on this. So now we're going to expand our statuses and see what we get now. And we're going to go from 8 listings to 103. Okay, so good news. We're probably going to have some good good material to work with here. Now, what we can do is we can, obviously there's a lot in this area that's crossing over lines. So does the group want to leave those in or take them out for now? We can always add them back. But I think we're going to have enough in here probably.
The properties, like, because you have these two highways doing this, right?
Yes.
The properties that are like at the bottom on the sides of the V, I would say are irrelevant.
You mean on the outside of the
Like
V?
inside the V, because that's the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
Like,
So what about crossing over Briley Parkway? How do you feel about that?
it's still the same neighborhood. It's Parkwood Estates.
Mhm.
I've walked that way and it's very similar. It's the same exact neighborhood, same
Okay.
community.
Okay, so at least for now, because again, I don't know this area at all. I
Mhm.
can't do, but I'm
Mhm.
pretending like I don't. Like,
Right.
oh, don't cross big things.
Right.
So, but with your insider information, what we're going to do is take away this stuff outside of the V, right?
Okay.
And we're going to do that we're going to do that in a minute. But what I want to do is I want to go back to the draw feature and I want to take my little guy here.
Mhm.
And because we didn't cross Briley Parkway, but you're saying it's okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to extend it to the limit of our mile search. Does that make sense? Because we still know where the mile is. And that may
Yep.
be too far, but we can change it later. So I've expanded my smaller piece. I've gone out a full, because
Mhm.
these over here, could be not even close, but we'll find that out later. But
Mhm.
we've expanded what's here. And now I'll click out of that, go to my big circle, take that shape away, hit search listings.
Perfect.
How's that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, so again, we've actually narrowed our funnel. We squashed it down a little bit by taking stuff on the outside of the V away. We used that to alter our search within that V a little bit, saying, yeah, let's keep those in now. But as we go forward, we may bring that down in. But you can see how we've smushed things down the funnel. All right, so now I think it's about time to, and just as a, you guys probably know this, but just to point out, I'm at the map view. You can also go to the list view or to the grid view, which is kind of a, little combo of the things. But I want to stay on the map right now because we haven't really done much over here in terms of our search criteria. So I'll take suggestions from the group as we go down. We've adjusted our status. That's all we've done. As we move down from county is somewhat irrelevant here in this search because we've used a map search. So, but if your search area crossed over boundaries, for example, if you're down in the Creve Hall area and your search may be bridging Davidson County and Williamson County, we all know that makes a big difference in terms of because of the perception of school zones. So you might want to say, okay, I know I'm crossing into Davidson and Williamson, but I really only want to look at Davidson. But for the search, it's kind of irrelevant. But that's my default is Davidson County. You can set it to whatever you want. All right, so I'll open it up to the group of anything in here. What would you like to start with in terms of limiting things? The default in RealTracks is to include auctions. I do generally this type of search. But if I were out in Pleasant View or a little further out in Cheatham County, or if I had a client who was just looking for auctions, I'd keep that check. So team, where do we want to? So we've got 38 listings.
Yeah.
And we've done our due diligence looking at all the houses in this area. I'm sorry, all the features of this home through CRS Tax and RealTracks and our insider. And so how do we want to limit our search features to push things further down into the funnel?
Size.
Okay.
Size matters.
Size matters.
We had 2250 square feet. So we'll go to square foot total. What min and max do you recommend? There are all
Oh.
sorts of guidelines, but it's just kind of guess. Some people say 10% above and below. I don't like that because it depends on the size of the house.
Yeah.
So
I
for
don't
this one, what do we think?
Well,
1,800 to 2,400, something like that.
1,800?
or since I don't know anything about those houses, I might start a little smaller.
They're all, it's one of
Yeah,
those neighborhoods where everything's a mid-century ranch from the
Oh,
60s.
so okay. So then they're
Mid-century ranch from the 60s, the entire neighborhood,
all, okay, cool.
with a few exceptions, yeah.
Okay. Well, awesome. This house gets better every 5 minutes. Every 5 seconds. I gotta make a phone call. Okay.
Just an untapped neighborhood that I want to claim.
So this is in this area, this might be, you might choose at this point to go to the list view and kind of look at the features overall, largest, smallest, year built, that sort of thing, to get a snapshot before you start narrowing it down, or you might not. But so what I'm saying there is you might just go over the list view and say, okay, I just want an idea of year built as one. And so I just clicked this so it would order it up there, so 58 to look at all those. But then we do seem to have a break here around 1980. Doesn't mean that we want to pull them out necessarily, because for at least for active ones, these are ones that are competition. Do we want to limit it when you get to 2008? Maybe not now, but maybe in a minute. These are just kind of, again, thought process. And then full beds, might look there. We've got everything from the smallest is 2. Is that really comparable? Maybe. To 4. Is that comparable? Maybe. And then let's also look at
The subdivision for sure.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
The neighborhood, the subdivision that we're in.
Uh-huh.
So it's called Parkwood Estates.
Uh-huh.
So I if I was running a comp, I would only want to look at houses within my subdivision. Anything that's
Gotcha.
not our subdivision is going to be a different houses built in the 80s, just different style, different. Parkwood Estates is literally like every house is almost the same.
So I hear what you're saying. And here is my what I have found, a caveat on using subdivision is that information is put in by listing agents. It can pull it from the tax record. That's one that you can override. And so people could, maybe they misspelled it and they do Perkwood, or maybe they, just do, they think, oh, I don't want to be comped with Parkwood Estates. I want to be parked with Timberwood because I'm going to call it Timberwood. And when you think over in East Nashville, we've got Laughlin Springs, we've got Eastwood Neighbors, we've got historic Ren Raw, we've got South Inglewood that, at least a couple of years ago, people really wanted to call East Nashville. Maybe, I don't know. And so subdivision, I always take with a grain of salt, unless you're talking about a West Haven, or something like this. So just keep that in mind. Maybe save that limiter to later. It's just a thought. So,
Gotcha.
But year built, you're saying if it's built in the 80s, it's just not the same. Now, one thing, again, it is important what what else is active out there. But for active, we kind of, maybe we'll look, once we pick a price range, then we can look a little further out for what's available. Because are people really saying, I just want to live in Parkwood Estates? They're like, no, I have $400,000 and that's it. What can I get in this general area? Right. All that to say, square footage. Do we want to go with square footage first or year built? Or both? What do you think?
Maybe just
how about nothing after 2000? Again, we're just trying to push things down.
Older homes.
Yeah. So and then we can just, it's so easy to search. So we had 38, now we have 31. Okay. because
Okay.
we really don't think that those were, now, should we have looked at those that were built, before or after 2000? Maybe, maybe not. You can always go back up the funnel. But for now, I think we're going the right direction. All right, so, and then we have a big old bunch in Parkwood Estates. Let's go back to the map and see how we're getting. All right, so what we should be getting is, as we push things down the funnel and filter things out, is a tighter and tighter cluster. Let's see, so let's go down to, what about, what was the square
I mean-
foot? Oh, I didn't have it in my list. This is important.
Right. I would say eliminate the 2 bedrooms, because this is a house that's definitely 3, possibly 4. And
Okay,
2-bedroom house would just be like on a
good.
is a totally different thing.
So minimum 3 bedrooms. Excellent.
3.
And we went from 31 to 25. Excellent. All right. So square footage. So we're going from and this one's 2250. Even though this 1,000 square foot is 3 bedroom, 1 bath, it's in Parkwood Estates. So if we eliminate it based on square footage, then, so again, these are choices that you have to make. Decisions. It is currently being sold. So I like to have it on my radar because it's under contract, still showing, but I want to make sure I'm keeping an eye to see when it does close, because that's going to become an important cost soon.
Yeah.
So let's just hit search again. Oh, already hit search, sorry. So what would we like to limit now? Anything? Year built 2000. Do we think that's too generous? What do we have left in?
It looks like
Got
everything.
an 83
an
and 80. So if we're going to limit it again, we're going to have to go to like below 1980, which happy to do. I mean, do we think this Villages by the Creek is really comparable?
I don't even know where that is.
And the square
Village-
footage is super low.
Yeah.
So maybe we set our limiter at 1979. Right?
Yeah.
And we don't want to over engineer this too much. We want to make logical decisions on how we're limiting things and make sure we're not allowing our bias to, because we don't want to intentionally drive it towards, like I really want that 400,000 price point. So I'm going to, but I think that makes sense in terms of keeping things in that kind of mid-century. All right, so we've got 21 listings. What about baths? I mean, there's a huge difference between 2 baths and 1 bath. I mean, there's a huge value difference. But we also risk eliminating some true comps. I think now's probably a good time, and please let me know if there's another one that we want to do. Is now a good time to take a look at, we got a nice list of 20, 21.
Yeah.
Is it time to take a look and say, just get, again, eyeball and say, yay, nay, we need to eliminate these?
I think so.
Okay, let's go to the grid view then. And when there's my maiden name. I was, so before I do that, I do want to go back and I want to reorder them. I like the actives to be at the top. And there's one. That's so surprising.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But that is your competition, right?
Okay.
Okay. So what I look for when I'm scrolling through these is, like in this, I'm looking for renovated, and not just the word renovated. Here it says 1963 approximate, but then sometimes in historic areas, it'll say 1910 renovated. Was it really renovated? Was it putting lipstick on a pig, or did it go down to the studs? So just kind of getting that information. All right, Dee and Sarah both have tons of experience here. What do you look for when you're scrolling through, just eyeballing?
I just look and see what I see, and I see patterns. And then I see what the patterns sort of are. I would have to it's hard for me to see this and not be able to scroll myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know.
And I'm seeing, okay, wait, so we've got 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1.5 bathrooms. Do we have a shortage of 2 full bathrooms on this list?
Well,
Or
let's go
not?
back to the list
Oh, okay.
and sort by bathrooms.
Oh, there's not as many 2 full baths.
Twos.
Oh, here
Yeah.
we go. Here's more. Here's more.
We've got
Mhm.
three twos and 4 twos.
So what was the, I
This
was
is-
just
Yeah.
talking about 2 full bathrooms.
Yeah, and this,
So is
Mhm.
this
My-
the price thing? So when we have 2 full bathrooms, we get much, I think the next thing we do is yank out anybody who doesn't have 2 full bathrooms. I don't know.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
it
So
makes a big difference for like, yeah,
Oh.
if you only have 1 bathroom, you can't have as many like adults living there, really.
Oh, just list a 1 bathroom and get back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of comments.
I'm gonna put on my devil's advocate hat and say, I hear you, but we are going to eliminate our 1 active, and that is the
Oh, yeah.
competition. And
okay.
And it
And
does
that's-
have a half bath.
Oh,
Yeah, 1.5 is better than
okay.
Yeah.
only
Well,
one.
and yeah,
You could get rid of the only onesies.
I would get, the only onesies, I would get rid of the only onesies, because sometimes you can look at a half bath and just be like, oh, it wouldn't take much to make that a full bath.
right.
Right. Or at least
Yeah.
2 people could pee at the same time.
Right,
Right.
right.
So so excellent. And here's how we're gonna have to do that. You in real tracks, you can't eliminate by 3 bath, 1 and or 3 and a half.
Do you have to click them all and then unclick them?
Which we can do that by doing this. All right, so we're gonna check all of them. And then I'm gonna go down and eyeball where
Yeah.
it's just 310 or 410,
Mm.
right?
Right.
310,
Mhm.
310. It's just an unfortunate limitation of real tracks. I've requested the ability to do this, but they have not honored my request. Okay,
Okay.
so
That was
then
something.
I've removed anything that was only 3-1
Mhm.
and didn't have at least a half bath on top of that.
Okay.
And I go to
Mhm.
filter and say view selected results.
Okay,
And that
cool.
pulled out those 4. Okay. Now, bad news, if you rerun the search in a minute, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
Okay, but if we were going to do that and then run the comps, then let's do that. All right, we've got a nice limiter right now. Let's just go on. Got 17. We know we probably have some more honing to do. Actually, before we do that, let's go back to the grid and finish what we started. I'm a little all over the place today.
I'm sorry.
No, it's my bad. I'm just eyeballing and recognizing, oh, selling as is. I see that. Just,
Mhm.
Ah,
and again, these days, selling as is typically means because I don't have to negotiate with you. But home
Mhm.
being sold as is.
Mhm.
And fun fact, just because it says selling home as is, a seller can't tell a buyer what to offer. Now, if
Right.
you don't offer to buy it as is, you're probably not going to get your offer accepted. But the seller doesn't get to pick the terms of the offer that they receive. So, all right, so cute. Hot tub, heck yeah. I see a lot of Gary Ashton around here. So let's just say for the argument, the sake of argument, that it actually said D. Davis instead of Gary Ashton. And if I'm not sure the area, or I'm like, man, I just can't quite nail the comps on this, I pick up the phone and call D. Davis and say, you work a lot in this area, and I'm lucky I got one of these. And she's going to say, congratulations. Here's what I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Anything jumping out? And I know it's terrible when you can't.
That's not a ranch.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
a
that
ranch.
front
It's not a
stop.
ranch, but it's a 321 with
Yes.
2,000
Yeah.
square
Yes.
feet.
I
And it
know.
doesn't have a basement. It's got a first and second floor.
Yes.
So to me, I'm not gonna throw it out yet.
No, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a very pretty
Mhm.
door.
It does. That's a thing here.
Yeah.
So, all right. And again, in this area, we're not
This sounds
seeing a
like
lot.
a split level or something.
Yeah, split level. Mhm. Very common in 62, but it's a 3-2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
not as common over here. Oh, there's Stephen Neal again. He's been working this farm.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
In certain areas, not in this one, it'll say handyman special or tear down only or enter at your own risk. And those are ones that I'm looking for that I would take out of this list now, but I'm not
So
seeing any of them.
The one you just passed, one says list office bungalow.
Mhm.
Bungalow is similar to open door.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
This is the house that my neighborhood is angry about. This
Oh.
one. They're mad that this is a little 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot that just sold for.
It hasn't sold though.
Or it's under contract or whatever. Bungalow it's a whole thing. I don't feel like explaining it, but they're mad about this one, that it's 425 and that their house next down the street is just appraised for 325. So this is the house that everybody is pissed about in my neighborhood.
I'll put a star. I'm going to star that one
Yeah.
as a favorite.
Yeah.
And so here's what you can do. You can bring some sanity and lower the drama in your neighborhood and be your trusted real estate advisor and say, hey, look, you can list your house for whatever you want to. You can list it for $793,000. The market will tell you what it will sell for. And we all know that if the market will bear 425 when it's closed, it will be 425.
The way
If
that
it
bungalow
won't.
works is it's like Carvana or CarMax. They sell a
Right.
house and it sells for the exact price it lists at. So if it's listed at 425, it is under contract for 425.
But
And
you don't know what concessions were given either. So this is where we have to, and you don't know what fees they charge that cut into that. Dee, go ahead.
Carrie, have you done an offer with them yet?
No, I just called them because I can see
Okay.
that house from my backyard. And I was like, what's this bungalow? Like, what's this? What is this?
So
There's a bungalow home in Old Hickory that I'm in the process of trying to get the pricing for, and yeah, it's very weird.
they want the first cleanest offer.
Correct.
Clean. They
Yep.
don't want any dirt. They don't want any concessions. They'll do an inspection. They'll do an appraisal contingency, but they might just do a pass fail inspection. I can't remember, but you have to be first,
Yes, correct.
which I think that's exciting.
It's
But
buyers have to like get in a bidding war. They just have to be the first one to put a
yeah, it's
solid
kinda
offer and then they
crazy.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have a standing like Wednesday call to this agent that's representing a bungalow home in the Villages of Old Hickory, and there's been so many delays, but we just chat. I'm like, all right, well, let me know when it's ready. So it's just kind of like our Wednesday catch up. But yeah, I kind of like that, they're giving buyers a little bit of a sporting chance. Yeah, you got to come in clean, but first
have to
come,
be
first
first.
serve.
Yep. It's great for buyers.
Yeah.
And they still pay 3% to a buyer's agent. So if
Yep.
your buyer buys it, even if it's through their website, you still get 3%.
And so this is, it may be that bungalows functioning a bit more like a builder. Now let's pretend, for the sake of argument, let's look into the future to a better time, a happier place, when it's a balanced market. It's not a seller's market. It's
Right.
not a buyer's market. It's a balanced market. And so it's not first come, first serve, crazy cash offers. Let's just, pretend. And you advise your neighbors who are up in arms, hey, price isn't everything. In fact, I did a village class on this not too long ago called Getting Beyond Price. It's about terms. And that's what you guys were just saying about bungalow. It's going to sell at this price, but it needs to be clean because there are other terms that are important. And when you think about a builder, are they willing to negotiate on price? No, but they might give concessions that are of value. So let's say this is a builder, new construction, $425,000. And the builder's like, I'm not budging on price because bungalow builder wants that set as the mark and the expectation that if you come to bungalow, you're going to pay our price. Now, behind the scenes, we're going to charge you 7% on, that's going to cut into your 425,000. We're going to require you to pay the title expenses. We're going to require this and that and the other. And so that 425, let's say somebody owned it free and clear, or it's new construction, the 425 becomes 378. So again, and that's our job, is to educate folks, like, it's not just price.
Right.
And here's why.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
and so for buyers, it's not just, for some buyers, if you're using a loan, it is just about price. And so it's set at 425. What if it appraises for 400? That reduces the pool of buyers. So it's not saying this is fair to everybody. They may be marketing to investors. I want this price. I want a clean offer, and it's under 500,000. And I know you want to buy it for a rental. So again, that's our job, to educate people to say, and here's why. So it's not just that you can list your house, that you did a better paint job on it, so it should be 450. We have to work to educate and just rein in the insanity and the misinformation that's out there, because it's creating hysteria, in my opinion. Okay, that was recorded, and I'm sorry that I just gave my opinion, but
That was really valuable and helpful for me, though. Just in like my neighborhood Facebook group, when they're all like complaining about stuff, and I'm like, ooh, should I step in here? Mostly I've just been listening, but I haven't really.
That should be your new thing, your new motto: rein in the insanity.
that's
Seriously.
I'm just gonna
Somebody
steal.
needs to.
Does anybody remember Susan Powder?
Yes.
Yes.
Stop the
Stop the
insanity.
insanity.
Yes, I have her hair. Oh my.
All right. And I know we've gone over. We started a little bit late, so, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if you need to go, then I thank you so much for being here. I always I feel like I could do this all afternoon, because I enjoy it, and sometimes I do. But we'll move into the after party feature of this, because look, we're starting to get a cluster now, aren't we? We've eliminated, so we've got these things that were in our new drawing, our new shape, but we're starting to lose those things on the fringes, right? So to me, that says we're probably doing the right thing. We're going the right direction, right?
Yep.
So we've gone through the grid. We've and just kind of eyeballed everything. Talked about some very important points on why to leave something in or why not to leave something in. And so, oh, Chrisland, is that one for sale again? Good golly. Somebody flipped that one. Okay, anyway, so we've gone through our list to eyeball. Look how many Parkwood estates we have. Yeah, so Carrie, we've pretty much, through other, limiting other factors, which are logical.
Yeah.
We have gotten it down to Parkwood estates.
That's right.
So, yeah. So again, I think we're on the right path.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
We can just eyeball before you run comps. Eyeball, our smallest one is 1175. So after, let's take a look at the comps as the report. We've got 17 listings. That's quite a bit, but let's take a look, run comps, come back, do a little more narrowing it down after we, think through it again. Maybe we want to narrow it down and eliminate anything that's below 1,400 square feet or 1,800, whatever it was that we said originally, to try to get a tighter cluster. Of course, we know with square footage, as square footage goes up, the price doesn't go up in a linear thing, right? So if 1,000 square foot house sells for 200,000, it doesn't mean that a 2,000 square foot house will sell for 400,000, right? That price per square foot number comes down. It's like a exponential curve that goes this way, right? So it's not linear. So we might want to eliminate some of those really much smaller square footage houses. Yeah, at the top end, we've got 2127, so we don't have anything even as large as yours. So,
and that one, the one that you're on right now, is 3131 Wilmoth Road. That's my neighbor.
Yeah, excellent.
So that's a perfect one to look at.
So I like to, so I just added a little favorite there. So as we see ones and you're like, I know that area, I've been in that house, this one is a good match for you. I use the favorite feature to highlight those, because then when I'm presenting comps, I know that of the 8 I have here, 2 or 3 are really the ones that I want to focus on. So I use that to basically make myself some notes. All right.
Yeah.
So we've got a good good thing here. And again, we've got filtered listings. And just as a reminder, if we were to change, when we change the features over here, like when we make it only up, 1,500 square feet is the minimum, those ones with no half baths are going to come back. All right. That again, it's just a limitation of real tracks. Just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So let's go over to the more button and run our comps. Get started. Okay.
Wait, what button did you just press?
Sure. I'm going to go back to the results here. Okay. And I have all of these selected. Those are the ones because I want to run it on these. I'm going to go to more.
Oh, I just have to move your head. Your you know what I mean? No, I mean like your video. Because never mind. I'm sharing your screen, but then your head, your little speaking head was in the way. So I just had to drag it.
So
all
you
good.
can,
now I see where you are.
You can drag the little speaking bar, so you can grab it and move it around to a different place in your screen.
Right.
So anyway, if my head's in the way, you can drag that away, just in case you didn't know that.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to more and then
Gotcha.
CMA.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okie dokie. Now my head's in my way. I'll move it
Yeah.
there. All right. So there's one that's active. That's important to know because the inventory is the low inventory is one of the factors driving price down, and it's only a 311, not a 321. It's smaller. Okay, so that's good to know. Under contract showing and not showing. All right, I'm going to skip through those because I'm just going to know that they're there because I want to keep checking back. And when they do close, they get into the most important section, which is the close, because this is what the market will bear. Again, we did it on for the last 6 months. 6 months ago was a lot different than 3 months ago. We might want to limit it that. But when I eyeball when things have sold recently, that may take away too much and we don't have enough information to work with. So just keeping in mind. All right. So, but all these look, so there's a 311, 32, 421, 311, 321. So this Healy Court is probably, at least on paper, one of the most comparable things from, I'm not an appraiser, but from an appraisal standpoint, right? So in terms of not having to have as many adjustments made.
Right.
Does that seem accurate-ish?
Yeah, and it sold in February, so pretty recently.
Yeah, and it sold for
Yep.
400,000. All right. It is so remind me again the one that people are up in arms about.
Richmond Hill. It's like
Hill Drive.
31 something. Yeah.
Right.
That's the one.
So it's a 320, 1,450 square feet. That does seem a little smallish, right? So keeping in mind when we limit if we go back and try to smush things down the funnel more, if we put it at 1,600 square feet as a minimum, we're going to lose that. And if you don't want to lose that, then, and if I'm talking to a buyer or a seller in your neighborhood who wants to list their house at 450 because of that, I want it to stay in the comps. They need to see it, right? It needs to be in there. So just keep that in mind. You gotta go. All right. Reign in the insanity. That's going to be my new tagline. She's my accountability partner and my handler. So she's going to be having me use Reign in Insanity. But does that make sense? Like I want it to be in there because for a listing presentation in your neighborhood, because they're going to want to see it. If you don't have it in there, they're going to say, why didn't you include that in there? Because I want to see what that one is. So again, just keeping in mind, this isn't a science. It's not a formula. It's a combination of, art and science and voodoo and using your knowledge of micro neighborhoods and that sort of thing. As long as you have a logic and you can explain why something is in there or not in there, right? Okay.
Mhm.
So, all right. So just, we know that one is a good comp. What were some of the others that you said were a good comp? The one that's on your street, Wilma.
Yeah, the one that's
Yeah,
3131 Wilmuth. Yep.
Yeah.
It's two
So,
houses, very similar,
uh-huh.
very similar.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
One more bed, but perhaps you have one more bed. And we can talk, that's something you can debate as to whether or not you market that as another bedroom or as a flex room.
Yeah.
In all the classes you've already had already, if they talk about this, the whole thing is, if you're talking to a buyer and they say, I need a 4-bedroom house, you need to ask them why. Like, what are you going to use those bedrooms for? Are you going to use it for this? And so sometimes there could be some value in putting 4 beds, because some shoppers will look for only 4 beds.
Right.
But depending on who you're marketing to, what area, you might say flex room.
Yeah.
For studio, and so for some people that's going to be more important. And we do have in the new search interface, we do have the ability to search the remarks. So even though studio isn't a feature that we can add, people can search for studio. And if you have that in your remarks, then anyway. All right, I'm going down a rabbit hole. All right, so it's 4 beds, but we still believe that's comparable because of your tiny micro bedroom down there. 62. Oh, it's got 1 garage space, it says. Now,
Yeah, we don't have a garage.
Does it have a garage?
No.
It's probably a carport or something like that. Or some people will put 1 for garage port, but just keep that in mind. You're marketing it as that. Now, when people see it, they're gonna be like, "There's the garage," and it's not there. But and it is listed at 216 a square foot. So I just like to I'm a numbers person. I was in finance before this, and so I just like to I start eyeballing. All right, 216 a square foot times 20.2. That's 486. Does that seem insanity? Maybe.
That seems insane for the house I'm currently in, 486.
Okay. Well, this 459.9, it's been on the market. Okay, here's an important thing. And we didn't look at this in the list. Look how many days on market those two have been. Does that make sense to you in this market? Okay, let's scroll down to the closed and see average days on market, right?
Yeah.
So days on market. So we had one that was a bunch. Now that seems like an outlier. We don't know what's going on there. So this isn't everything, but look, for most things, all right. And it could be, again, when you're pricing it at maybe let's call it aspirational pricing, and you have a seller who's willing to wait. So here's a question. If you price a property correctly in this area today, when will it go under contract?
Within a week.
I'd say within a day.
Yeah.
If it's priced correctly for what it is, for all the things. If you have a seller who's like, I don't care, I'm just going to chill and wait. This market keeps going up. Let's list it at this. And I'll wait till the right buyer comes along. All right. So some of these numbers don't make sense to me. Now here's one. Look at this. List price was and this is another thing you want to look at. List price to sales price. All right. So what we're seeing on average in Nashville writ large, and this is why micro neighborhoods you really need to look at, but things are selling at between 100 and 102% of their list price. They're selling over. These are selling for under, right? On average, which tells me there's some folks high, and then the market is telling them what it's actually worth, right? 240 to 200. So that was aspirational. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that this one that everybody's up in arms about it's listed at 425. What's
425,
really
yeah.
going to matter is the sales price, except again, we're not going to know what concessions the seller had to make in
Right.
order
Right.
the buyer had to make. So keep all these things in mind.
Mm.
But again, so for the closed, again, if we believe that this is a great pool of closed comps, then what we're showing is the sale price per square foot is not, what was it, 215? Is that what we said? What did we say? What did we just use?
We were
216.
using 216 and
216?
it came up to like 480 or something.
486. Okay, yeah.
I was
So
like, that's
let's
a lot.
say that we use instead something more around here, maybe 205. All right.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not what it's listed for, it's what it closed at. So let's say 205.
Yeah, 205 would be like in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. So 461, 250. All right. So, and again, we're just working things down the funnel. We're not fast tracking to the bottom of the funnel. Again, we're still applying our logic to that funnel. All right. So 461. That's sounding possibly more in line. All right. So if I felt like I was done with the comps and I had exactly what I want, I'd think probably price it around 450 and then have the market bring it up.
Yep.
All right. So, we're not done yet. And that's a really important thing about doing comps. It's not a one and done. It's an iterative process. And so, but if my college career was any indication of how I do things, my first draft was usually my final draft, but that's not the best way to do this. And so what you want to do now is go back to your results and maybe put a few more filters on there, like, okay, let me narrow that down a little further. I really think that 1,100 square feet is not comparable, and it's going to skew your price per square foot, right? Because again, price per square foot is not linear. So let's just say, but I know that I don't want to lose that one. There was something. Richmond Hill. So I'm going to say it has to be at least 1,400 square feet. These are tiny, right? And so I might do that. Let's push it down the funnel a little bit more. Does that feel good? Make sense? Do you want to see it? Do you not want to see it? What other feature would you like to adjust a little bit, or do you feel like you're done?
Oh, I don't know.
There's no wrong answer. So what I can do is, so now, and this is important because you can't do this yet in the new search interface, but we're in the old search interface. I'm going to go to save. I'm going to save a search. And I'm not going to, all Davidson is my default, how I got it set up, but I'm going to save it as, and I always call them pricing pros. And I do 3127 Wilmeth. And then I'll put Carrie Pfeiffer, so I kind of help me remember who owns the house or who suggested it. And I've saved it so I can go back to it later. Because sometimes you do this and you're like, oh, my head hurts. Or I want to send it to somebody and say, hey, D. Davis, will you take a look at this? When I send you my comps, will you just eyeball these and tell me, what am I missing here? Should I limit it by this or that or the other? And you can share it with somebody. Now, you can't share an active search. You can only share a static picture of the comp sheet or these properties. You can't, unfortunately, send them this where then they could play with it. Does that make sense? So I can't send you my save search where you can then start clicking on things. It's in the process for RealTracks. They're going to add it eventually, but you can't do it now. But you can send, what I would do is I'd go to my more. Let's say that I feel like I'm done, and do my CMA, and then I can share it this way, of course. And I can, or So I can share it, and it's, so I've copied the link and I could send it to somebody, or I can just print it as PDF and save it and then send it to somebody, however best to do it. And then say, hey, look, would you take a look at this and could I call you? And I'd like to just talk through a few things, and here's what I'm thinking. And you may be calling the person, like we said, Stephen Neal, who's had 3 listings over in that area. Stephen, I'm with Village, and can I ask a couple questions? Here's what I'm thinking. And would you be willing to help me out? And, it's not a violation of clear cooperation to ask for help for things. You can't publicly market something, but, hey, look. And so that is something to consider. You might want to, be sure you kind of at least put a disclaimer, like, I may be able to list this and I really just need a little guidance on this. So anyway.
Would you ever just like start looking through the photos of these listings and just being like, ooh, that one's,
Yep,
that was totally different, or that one's kind of a dump, or this one's got way more upgrades, like that's not equivalent. Like, I think I would start going through photos.
Yep,
Just
absolutely.
which ones look like they're on the same,
Yep,
either it's too luxury or it's kind of dumpy. Like, I'm trying to look for something that's the same quality.
excellent. Absolutely. And I would say for me, that comes sort of later in the process, maybe at this point, because we're down to 17, but when we had 38, I don't want to do that yet, because I don't think I'm close enough to having a nice cluster of comps.
Right.
So, so absolutely. So we could just click on that. And they're not filtered the way that they're not ordered the way I'd like to, but so you can always just absolutely, as you know what the inside looks like. It's generally a bad sign if there are only a few pictures.
There's no inside pictures on this one.
Nope. So yeah,
How about that one?
It says inside pics says inside pics coming soon, and they never came, or they were removed. They could have been removed.
Yeah, it's been
so
24 days and there's still no inside pics. That's weird to me.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
And so now this one is the 1175 square feet. So if we do go over here and limit it, then it's going to drop out that way anyway. So we might do that in a minute. And then, but this one, and again, the MLS guidelines are such that the first picture that shows up is supposed to be an external picture. So I don't know why they're doing this, but anyway, so this one looks like it's been renovated. Right?
This one is definitely a little bit higher level. So like this is what, 293 per square feet. I would say the house I'm currently in is not 293 per square feet. But that's good to know. So,
and again, that could be aspirational. You see, it was on the market. It's been on the market 30 days.
That's true. And it's,
and days on the market is from when it goes active to when it goes under contract. So it was a month before it went under contract.
It's still not even under contract, this one.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, wait, it says, oh, I see. It says under contract showing.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
Yep. So, so absolutely. So that the first one is suspect because there were no, inside pics, and because it's such the square footage is so low, probably going to want to pull that one out. Right. So
this one looks about on par. This one looks very much on par. Oop, bathroom's nicer. But yeah, we have hardwoods throughout and a nice kitchen. Our bathrooms are a little outdated though. So this one's 251 per square feet. Again, so yeah, this one, the bathrooms look a little bit nicer, but the kitchen and everything else looks the same.
Well, and it's sold, so that's good. But again, keep in mind, it's only 1375 per square foot. So, so yours might be, because of, and again, thinking like an appraiser, how to adjust for square footage. And if we set it at 1400, it's going to drop that one out. And so you may want to keep this one in because you do believe it's comparable in other ways, except it's just a baby version of yours. So, okay. Lemonades on market. Okay. But yeah, so absolutely, this is a good process. All right.
And we
so I think
go through all of these, but
I was going to say for next steps, I would probably, because I'm going to go back to results. I feel like there's a little more tweaking to be done over here. I feel good personally about the year built. I think it's given us a nice cluster. I feel good about how things have limited itself and been here. It validates, this validates what you're saying about it's okay if you cross Briley Parkway, at least right here, but you don't want to cross, one of the major interstates. So that's good. 3 beds, I think that's a good limiter. I might do something, we didn't talk about type, and I probably should have taken condo. Nothing has come up for that,
Yeah,
but
here?
but it might have, and I forgot to take that out.
All good.
And then I might come to the square footage. And again, because we went through the list, I'm like, I think we only need to, again, at this point, we're not looking to eliminate 1 or 2. We're not looking to eliminate anything. We're looking to think logically, do we need to limit it any further to push things further down the funnel? And I would say square footage, probably around 14, at least to drop the bottom 1 or 2. That also eliminates, because we looked at the pictures, it eliminates that Chrislandale, which I'm pretty sure that's one I went in. And if it's just a flip,
The one where they had no pictures, and it's weird to me.
all right. So
Cool.
That's all. That's. I feel like we've done good work here.
Yeah. And I think the value of this house is a little bit higher than I thought.
Well, and again, this
currently,
is
the market.
I recently did a class on supporting sellers, and this really amazing instructor said that she no longer talks about pricing, because pricing is a point in time and an estimation of value. And if you call it a price, it's just, you've seen this with your folks who are like, $425 for that house, whatever. Instead of pricing, she's calling it positioning. I'm positioning it at this. And that's based on not some notion of inherent value, but it takes into account other things like market factors and those sorts of things. The market will tell you if it's positioned properly. The other thing it does is, if it's positioned improperly, then it allows you to reposition it without the sellers thinking, I lost money. Well, you didn't lose money. It was priced inappropriately and you didn't sell it. So you didn't lose money. But talking about positioning, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out where it should be positioned at this current place in time based on a lot of factors. And that's one thing that you can help your neighborhood folks understand. And because this is a really cool spot, and you could become, do you know Nick Irwin by any chance? Okay, so I call him the king of Cleveland Park. You can become a neighborhood expert.
I just met with him about the idea of doing a community yard sale for this neighborhood. I'm starting to weasel my way into that for my neighborhood. So yes, I have next spring.
Well, and that's the thing. And you don't have to bombard them on Facebook. Like, you crazy people, what are you talking about? Like, hey, look, there are a couple of facts and just a little thing, and let's see what it actually sells for. And let me look into bungalow and find out more about that model. And your Carvana analogy was great. Carvana is not for everybody. I can do a better deal if I go directly to an individual seller, but I've got convenience, I've got this, I've got these guarantees, and that's worth something to me. Same thing with Open Door, any of those. But if you want the best value for your sale, these companies charge a lot of fees. You really have to look more about the price and not get starry-eyed about, we're going to sell it for this price regardless. You have to look at the bottom line, the net sheet, and that's where the net sheets come in too. So
okay, yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Well, Carrie, I'm happy to send you again, it's static. I can't send you something that you can play with, but it'll have a CMA, of course, at the bottom tells you what all the limiters are. And so you can recreate it and then play around with it. But again, I'm going to save it again, make sure I double save twice. Again, if you create it by starting on the main page of RealTrax, you're not going to be able to save it. So if it's something you want to save, I recommend going to search, legacy search, and doing it there and then saving it. I'll just show you real quick. I saved it so I can go away. So here, you do this super fast.
Yeah,
So
I almost always do the old legacy one. I always like putting in extra parameters. So
I do too. And the thing is, the new search they've added multiple parameters that they didn't have before. Eventually, they will have all of them moved from the old search to the new. It's just going to take a little while longer. So yeah, so then I would go from here. So I typed it in. We know it's not listed, so I'll go to browse map and it'll drop me a pin. Yep. Drop me a pin, and that's where I would start with I start with a circle, and then I do my shape, and you know, that sort of thing. And then you can get to the very same place once you have that shape. I'll just do shape real quick. You get to that, and then I would go to and then search listings. It'll show me what's in the area. And then I would go to the search over here, open up that window, and that's where you start doing your stuff.
Cool.
So, and they are getting here where it says add remove criteria, they're adding more and more. So they'll get there eventually. So they're just not all there yet. And that's a secondary limitation to this search, that the new search, which is why I'm still staying in the legacy search.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was so informative.
Thank you all for hanging. I appreciate it. Sarah, is there anything that that you think would help Carrie in adjusting your search, or anything that you got that you're like, I didn't know that, or I knew all that, or any recommendations for, I wouldn't have done it that way, I would have done it this way?
Honestly, like everything, the fact that you found comps in there, what I'm having trouble with sometimes is when I'm in a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of turnover, and you know, you have to go out a little further, moving that circle around kind of helps, and going out maybe 2 miles. But I mean, honestly, you found stuff, so yeah, congratulations. I'm actually running comps right now, and I'm not nervous, but I'm like, God, this is not going to be easy, because it's in East Nashville, and it's a very unique property. And the more unique stuff, you get little like, all right. And that's when, honestly, the best advice, if you don't know how to do something, don't lie about it. Just say, hey, I need some help, or hey, I'm going to have to get some more agents involved that I trust, that know a little bit more and specialize in that, to help me out with this. So, I mean, just setting those expectations, and really just having all the information and showing them, then yeah, that's the best way to handle it.
Absolutely. And Sarah, we just did one last week on a in Laughlin Springs, on 12th. And those historic homes, especially once they've been renovated and they have STR eligible, and all these things, you're just like,
well,
they
the
really
one
are.
wasn't, it was like over on, I think, Russell, and it was listed at like 1 million, but it's sold for like $1.4 million. I'm like, I mean, what do you do there? It's like, okay. I was a little off, but yeah.
But there's one on 13th that's listed at like 1.665, but it's been on the market for 40 days. Well, what does that say?
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, and
That never
like, I
happened
live in Madison, and if you want to look it up, the address is 216 Walker Terrace, and I live at 205 Walker Terrace. So I've just kind of looked at it, because they purchased it. I mean, they just basically put lipstick on it. It's really, really pretty lipstick, but they had it listed way outside the parameters. And I mean, I went to the open house and I was like, hey, what did you, I just had a point blank conversation with the agent. I was like, where did you pull your comps? And she just didn't really give me a straightforward answer. And they did 3 price drops before they got it finally under contract. But they had it at 700,000. And I was like,
yep, I see that.
Ain't no damn way it's gonna go at 700,000.
I mean,
and they dropped it down to like 625. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay. But if anybody looks in that neighborhood, like, I can't get Papa John's to deliver to my house because their drivers have been like held up so many times on Williams Avenue that, you know, it's going to be a completely different neighborhood in a few years because there's a lot of different developments that are coming up. But right now, at this point in time, you know, and it is a nice lot, but across the street, you're looking at an AT&T like hub of like service workers. So you have that right in your front yard. To the left of you, you have a brand new, the Harris is up there, and it's going to be